have another great business resources to share with you. And today, to help me, I have Tom Treanor, who is coming to us all the way from California. And Tom is a blogger, and his blog is Right Mix Marketing. And he is also the founder and creator of the Business Blogging Telesummit. And Tom helps small to medium-sized businesses understand online marketing. And today we are going to be talking about the importance of having a blog and what are you supposed to do with your blog when you have it. Thank you so much, Tom, for being part of this discussion.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, Chrisia. Well, thanks for having me.
Well, Tom, I was saying to you before we start recording that I'm just very shocked that we're still talking about the importance of blogging. I'm a little bit shocked that I just said to the audience that you are the founder of the Business Blogging Telesummit, which means that, you know, there's still information that needs to be shared about blogs. So how come not everybody, not all of the entrepreneurs out there know that they need a blog? How come we're having this discussion still?
Well, there's probably a few things. And one thing that was in my subconscious that was recently pulled into my conscious by talking with Chris Garrett and a couple of other people was, you know, in some senses, blogging is a dirty word for some businesses. They feel like, oh, that's for kids or that's a trendy thing, and it's not that important. And really, I mean, you know, Chris made the comment that he doesn't even raise the word blog until the clients do. So, you know, what I'm preaching now is, you know, definitely content marketing is key, and but you know, honestly, after talking with 9 experts and 9 entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs that I talked to, without leading the witness, all came back and you know, basically said their blog is one of the most critical elements of their marketing, and it's one of the things that has been the most important for them. But the other thing is that some businesses know that they need to blog, but they really are not getting traction with their blog. So they feel like, well, I'm wasting my time.
Exactly.
And or other ones feel like it's important, but they just don't know really how to get started.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the first part, that, you know, the first problem or issue. You blog, you write, and you're really talking to yourself and your cat and perhaps the 2 people who are on your mailing list. That's how a lot of us feel the first few months, and sometimes even more than a few months. Sometimes it takes 6 months, 7 months to get some traction. So how are entrepreneurs supposed to keep blogging, and even though they're not necessarily getting either feedback, meaning comments, or traffic from their blog? So how do they keep the momentum going, although, you know, they're not seeing, you know, the benefits quite yet, without feeling that they're completely wasting their time?
Right, and that's a fair question. You know, I kind of addressed this a little bit in a blog post I recently wrote, which I call The Myth of Easy. But in reality, there's not really easy marketing. So you have to first acknowledge that blogging is important, and then you're going to have to acknowledge that you actually have to work at it. So it may look effortless to all these great bloggers out there, but you look beneath the surface, they're all working it. They're not just sitting back and putting a post up and waiting for people to do the work for them. They're actually going out, commenting other blogs. They're talking to other influencers. So, you know, that's the first step, is that you have to work it. And then you also have to connect. Your audience is not just your potential customers. It's also the influencers who are going to spread your message more broadly than you can. So you connect with your influencers, and that's your influencers in the industry. And they don't have to be the most famous people in the industry, just people that have a little bit more influence than you know, on social media or other places. And I'd say a third good point is, and not to overload you, but write better. Some people just write average stuff, and it's never going to go anywhere.
Okay, well, let's talk about a couple of things here. Let me talk about the influencers. How are we supposed to connect with our influencers? What do? We send them an email. We go to their contact us page. We go and we comment on their blogs.
Well, that's a good point. So it's kind of tied with the work it. So basically, your influencers are out there. They either have a blog, or they have a LinkedIn profile, or they have a LinkedIn group, or they have a Twitter account, a Facebook page. So basically, you identify the people that you want to get closer to, and then you basically be a good follower, friend, colleague, and you comment on what they say. You answer. A lot of people on social media ask questions, especially if they're an influencer. They say, "Hey, what's the best way to do X, Y, Z?" If you're out there answering their questions in a proactive way, they're going to start noticing you.
Okay.
So those are some of the ways you can connect, or you can join a group that they're in, or that they started, say, in LinkedIn. And you can be a good contributor, and that doesn't mean just sharing all your blog posts in there. That means engaging with them and with the other people in the group.
Okay.
Those are a couple of ways.
So that means that once we've written our blog posts, obviously given that we know how to write, because we're going to tackle that later on, once we've written that blog post, that's not it. That's just the beginning. We actually have to market ourselves and therefore market our blog, because obviously when we're proactively going out there and commenting or reaching people out on LinkedIn and whatnot, there are ways for people to link back to us to find out, well, who is this person being quite active and answering my questions or retweeting or whatnot.
Absolutely. And even if you're just thinking, well, in a month or in 2 weeks I'm going to start blogging, but I'm not ready yet, you could still be doing some of the work by actually getting out there and connecting, finding out who the influencers are. And to your point, commenting on blogs is another way to connect with them. So you can find, even if you're a local business and let's say you're in the architecture business, you can find resources that are local to your area and see if they have blogs, or see if there's industry groups, and you can start connecting and engaging with the people that are associated with those organizations. Okay,
so basically what I hear you say is work is involved.
Right. It's not. There's no free lunch in this.
Because you said something at the beginning of the conversation, and I actually do agree with you. When we look at these big bloggers, you just mentioned a few. If we look at, let's say, Darren Rouse from ProBlogger, it looks effortless. It looks easy. It looks like he puts up a post and boom, 2,000 or 3,000 readers later. It seems to be very easy, when in reality, it's easy for him now. 6-7 years later, but at the beginning, I know that one of his posts, he had done a video saying that blogging is like watching grass grow, especially at the beginning. So that's very interesting that you talk about, and it's a big emphasis for me on the show to make sure that successful entrepreneurs explain that it is not an overnight success. That there is no such thing as a free lunch, as you said.
Right, and you train yourself mentally like it's a marathon. Don't think that you're going to come out and do a sprint and suddenly be famous. It's more like training for a marathon. You do step by step and you build it up, and then if you do the right things, you'll start to have some success.
Interesting. One of the points that we talked about earlier in terms of challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses have when it comes to blogging is that they don't know what to write, or they don't write very well. So could we talk about that? How do you figure out what you're supposed to write? I mean, we know that we're going to get comments if we write something that's compelling, but how do you write something that's compelling? How do you learn how to write something that's compelling? I'm sure that must be a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs out there.
Right, and this point has been emphasized a lot by one of my colleagues, Marcus Sheridan at the Sales Line, which is your industry FAQs. So if and I'm talking to small businesses, medium businesses, or even large businesses. If you think about what you're asked in your business day to day, what are the sales teams asked by the customers? What do potential customers always ask? What are the hurdles that they always face to getting started? And you basically answer the industry FAQs within your blog. Is one very easy way to get started, and it can be like a how-to or a why or how to decide this, and so that can be pretty easy. They don't have to be that long, but they just have to be informative.
Okay.
And you don't always have to answer the question, like, how much does this cost? You can say, well, here's the factors that go into a cost for this type of item.
Okay, excellent.
That's one thing.
Okay, good to know. That's also a really great way of putting content up, or recycling content from our blog on, let's say, our Facebook fan page. Because those are, again, we could break them down and put them on the Facebook fan page. Hey, did you know that, whatever, depending on the industry, you can use our product to do this, or check out this customer who you found an innovative way of using our product. Do you have other innovative ways of using our product? Please comment. So
Absolutely. And I have a couple other ways that I think are pretty easy that I teach to a lot of my clients. So, use some formulas in the beginning because that'll just be easier for you. And they're also going to be more shareable online. So, for example, you can think about your industry and think about what's a top 10 list that you can write for your industry. Or what's a how-to post that you can write for your industry or for your products. It has to be interesting, though. Don't make it real boring. So those are some easy formulas to follow, and people love that. That's why you see all the magazines on the checkout counter say top 5 ways to lose belly fat and all that, because people want to see quick and easy articles, and in this case blog posts, that help them solve their problems.
Okay, excellent. Now, when it comes to getting some traction, some word of mouth about what we're writing on our blog, would you recommend more than some of the tips that you shared earlier? So more than going out and commenting, more than following some of the industry leaders or influencers? Are there other tips that you would recommend, or is it a question of having a series of tips such as commenting and following industry leaders and social media, and keep doing it on a consistent basis, because knowing that we're not going to see results the first few months that we do this?
Well, let's look at it this way, and I'll make this rule up on the spot, but it could be called the rule of threes. Maybe pick like 3 social networks. So, for example, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Maybe pick 3. 3 really forums within those. So let me look at it this way. So let's do this. So 3 social networks, and then maybe within those, within LinkedIn, I think you should pick at least like 3 groups. 3 groups. So basically, focus in more detail in those groups. Okay. Get to know people in those groups. On Twitter, basically, that'll be one of your social networks. Find people in your industry, and you can do Twitter search. You can use tools like Twello to find people in your industry. And then on Facebook, look at a few pages that are related to your industry and like them, and start to observe what they do. Mm-hmm. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, don't try to do everything. Don't try to do every tool, every social network. Just focus on a few specific areas and a few specific people, and really observe them, interact with them, get deep with it. And then things like LinkedIn groups, actually engage and know those groups, and know who talks about what and who posts what, and then learn how people post. So focus and get to know these. Don't treat it like a mass thing where you're getting your content out everywhere and every place you can. It's more about focusing and engaging and getting to know people. And trust me, that'll start to pay off, because people start to know you, and then when you post content, they're going to go, hey, I'm going to respond, and I'm going to forward that on, and you're going to actually get some traction that way.
Interesting. And what about scheduling our post on platforms such as Hootsuite, which allows us to engage with as many social media platforms as we want? Or let's say we pick those 3 and we decide to focus on those 3 and have a sort of a tool or software like Hootsuite helping us? Or do you recommend doing it the old-fashioned way, sort of going ourselves in each of our social media platforms and commenting, or should we combine both?
I think that the combination of both is good. So using tools is always great, but over-automating, sometimes you lose touch with what you're doing and what's getting out there and who's responding to it. So probably in the beginning, do a lot of things by hand, but then you can use tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck to help you manage the accounts and manage when your tweets get out and scheduled. So yeah, Hootsuite's a good tool for that. And then when you're blogging, you always want to have your analytics as well. So Google Analytics is a good free one, because you want to see what happens. So in other words, when I regularly comment in this forum and then occasionally share my post, does anything happen from it? Do I actually get people coming back to my blog? That kind of feedback kind of helps you learn what works and what doesn't.
Okay, excellent. So you, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, you are the creator and the founder of the Business Blogging Telesummit. And we've just been talking about blogging. And for me, I've assumed wrongly that most every entrepreneur out there knew the importance of blogging. Obviously, it's not the case. you've created an amazing telesummit. Why have you created this telesummit? And let's say viewers watching this interview would be interested in knowing more. Why would they even care, and what would they benefit from the Business Blogging Telesummit?
So small business is a huge part of the U.S. economy. There are millions of small businesses out there, and I work with them every day and get a lot of the same questions as to why should I do this? How should I do this? Why is this so hard? So I'm trying to help them by learning from 9 marketing experts who really know this well, who've also built themselves up through these processes, and then also 9 actual small business examples. And the questions I ask them are things like, well, what did you do wrong? I start with that. What didn't work, so that they, we get a sense of, well, it didn't just magically happen correctly for them, and they figured out the magic formula. They did a lot of things wrong, and then they stumbled upon things that did work. And then I ask them in detail, well, what worked? How did you do it? What tools do you use? So I really wanted to give kind of a curriculum for small business on how that they can actually blog, how they can get started, how they can create digital products associated with their blog, how they can grow their audiences, and then get practical examples.
And that's great that you're actually using the example of real entrepreneurs and also some industry leaders. So that's a nice little balance. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that people can access, or should I say, I'll make sure that I have a link in the show notes right below this player so that people can access the page for the Business Blogging Telesummit if they want to register. And you are holding this telesummit, I believe, in December.
Right. It's being held December 12th through the 16th. So I encourage people to sign up. And I have one of the case studies available now. If people sign up, then they can access that and listen to one of the case studies and get started.
And let's talk about how perfectly well sort of located these dates are in the calendar, in the sense that 12th to the 16th, it's the end of the year, just before the holidays. So this is really great education and learning that people could take with them in terms of planning out next year.
Right. I mean, we don't want to sit and work all Christmas break, but maybe they could take some of the audios. So it's for a pretty inexpensive price. After they listen, they can purchase. They could have some of the audios to listen to in their drives or when they're relaxing, and it makes a perfect Christmas gift.
Ooh, well said, my friend. Well said. That is packaging 101. That is really. You know what? That's true. If you have an entrepreneur on your list, I mean, you could go out and get a mug or something useless, or you could say, hey, you know what? This is great. I know somebody who may use this. Why don't I give it to them? At least they'll learn something out of it.
Right, and it's free during the week of the event anyway, so I encourage people to listen for free and then enjoy it, and definitely take a lot of the tips and write them down at the minimum.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tom. And as I said earlier, I stumbled upon my words, but I did say it in the end. I will have a link to Tom's Business Blogging Telesummit, and definitely make sure to check it out, and you will learn. And that's what this is all about. Learning, moving forward, learning, moving forward. Thank you.
Hey, I love learning.
You know what? I'm a learning junkie. That's why I'm doing this show. Every single expert I've interviewed, I've learned. And sometimes it's that one extra nugget that makes a huge difference in what we're doing. And also, I think, we feel that we're not alone, because sometimes as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, we feel that we're the only people who have these problems, the only people who have these questions. And then you start realizing that, nope, you're not alone.
Absolutely.
Well, Tom,
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
I appreciate it.